So what is a software supply chain? Well, a very simple definition would just say it's the components and the libraries and the tools and the process, to publish software, right? It goes into a little more detail because it talks about everything, right? The source binaries, the proprietary source binaries, the building orchestration tools, which is where the NPM attack sort of lives, if you think about it. It's sort of it even encompasses the people, the organizations, and even the processes that are involved in software development. And so there's actually in the US, there's an executive order to improve the nation's cybersecurity, which basically defines the software bill of materials and says that they need to be provided, they need to be evaluated. And not only is the SBOM itself, which is the formal record containing the details of the supply chain, not only do we need an SBOM, but we also need to identify any risks inside that SBOM. So this is the traditional, if you will, thought about software supply chain for an app. So you're building an app, you have some third-party libraries, you need to produce a software bill of materials, and then you need to identify any vulnerabilities. So again, if you're building a mobile app and you're concerned about, or your job is to put together that SBOM, it's part of your job to also ensure that vulnerabilities or weaknesses are identified. And so there's these two different approaches, which have both have pros and cons, which you can use to identify and ultimately fix, or at least publish for your customers that information. So to summarize what we talked about so far, the mobile supply chain actually includes everything from the device itself all the way to the apps that we are using as users. And when we look at the details, so for open source components like Android, iOS, in some cases, you have some libraries that are open source that are part of the applications, right? So the packages are being infected with a worm that has this malicious capability to steal passwords. They're then being distributed to developers unknowingly, who are then including them in their own apps, who are then ending up on a mobile device. And that's the flow of that supply chain. So, first of all, we can test devices. If you're the developer, you should definitely be using various technologies, including SCA and binary scanners, to identify and remediate potential vulnerabilities in your own code, but also in the third party libraries. And, we talked about that because tools exist to help with this.